So what does social movement theory in the academic literature say? I want to say that there's really only one part here that I think is really relevant. There are 6 sort of big theories within social movement literature. You're about to get about 100 books in one slide, so I've saved you an incredible amount of time already. So I'm expecting some kind of payback for that, for sure. So the first big theory of social movements is called deprivation theory, and the idea is that the most oppressed people will be the people who rebel. But you know in your countries that's not always the case, right? I mean, the most oppressed people may be dispossessed, and they may be voiceless, and they may be without the vehicles to do things. The sort of economic theory of social movements is a theory that has to do with the idea that there are rising expectations, and that really your social movements will occur at times when expectations are heading up, and as a result of that, people's aspirations are heading up. And so it's not really a question of deprivation, but of aspiration in the context of economic growth. Resource mobilization theory says social movements occur when there are resources for that to happen, or when the transaction costs become low, right? And so one of the things we're seeing too with the emergence of new social media is it changes the transactions cost, right? So the other part of this is political process and opportunity theory. Misspelled there, that's terrible. I'll show you another misspelling later. It's a little bit more purpose. But this talks about simply that when there's opportunities that get opened up, perhaps because of shifts in party structure, one of the things that's an intersection of social movements and party structure is the shift of the Democratic Party in the 1960s, in which in the 1960s in the United States, the civil rights movement forced a lot of white Southern conservatives to want to retreat from the Democratic Party and find an alternative that mobilized the Republican Party, but it also created a different set of opportunity structures. There's a thing called new social movement theory and then a thing called framing theory. The new social movement theory, which is associated with, for example, Manuel, who teaches here at the school, basically says that the traditional actors we thought of as being actors behind social movements, which tended to be class actors or ethnic actors, have been supplanted by other identities. So the gay and lesbian movement is an identity, the consumer movement, organic food movement, that there's other sorts of issue identities. But the problem with the issue identity thing is identity politics can lead to fragmentation. So if you've got too many identities going on at the same time, it's hard for people to cohere. And so the modern theory is called, in more complicated terms, social constructionist theory or framing theory. It's very communicative. What framing theory says is that people get constituted, their identities get constituted in the midst of the social movement, right? So that they become identified, their very identity becomes linked to the movement of which they're a part. So one big example is
this Google guy in Egypt, I think is.
Yeah, it's very, very relevant to that, right? Yeah. So you're constructing an identity, and it was in that case kind of online identity, but we are all someone, right? And if you think about, for example, one of the big triumphs in the last year in the United States, we are the 99%, right? Mm-hmm. We are the 99% is a frame. It's a communicative frame that creates an identity. And what's interesting about that identity is it links professional middle-class people with middle-class people, with working class and poor people, right? So it links people across a class frame, right? What did the Dreamers just do? The Dreamers, who, I mean, think about that name. What a great name, right? We are the Dreamers, right? Which ties into the value of the American dream, right? They're claiming that they're more American than anyone else, right? Because basically what they're claiming is that, you know, they can't go back to another country. They were born here, right? They've actually mobilized around an identity, and that identity has become who they are. Not that they're Latino, not that they're an immigrant, but that they're a dreamer. Their identity is around that social construction. And that's another example of this is the environmental justice movement, which I think has big salience in many of your countries as well. And people see themselves and call themselves part of the environmental justice movement. We're an environmental justice community. Now, this can be also frames that are difficult. The Islamist fundamentalist movement, right, is an identity frame as well, has certain strengths and, of course, certain weaknesses. But that's the newest part of social movement theory. So,